Reddit, what was the most stupid thing you did as a teenager? I spent a week getting drunk every night and putting food in a friend's neighbor's mailbox. It started as a joke. One day we accidentally burned some pizza rolls, but we didn't want to throw away food, so we decided we'll just give them to the neighbors. But they're probably sleeping. Let's just mail them to them. The next day we were remembering that night and decided to make sandwiches or something. Ended up making an extra sandwich and put it in their mailbox as an apology for giving them burnt pizza rolls. Then the next night we decided a sandwich isn't good enough. We made scrambled eggs, toast with jelly, and some bacon. We put that on a paper plate with a red Solo cup full of orange juice in their mailbox because we thought they deserved a good breakfast. Then we made an ice cream sundae for them the next night. I mean all out. We even went to the store for the cherries. We had chocolate syrup, whipped cream, sprinkles, all the good stuff. Even left them a spoon to eat it with. Well, the next day I'm at work and I check my voicemail during my break. It was some police officer saying that he's leaving me a voicemail because he needs to talk to me now. So I call him back and he starts questioning me about the trauma and hardship I had been putting this family through. Apparently after the third or fourth night they installed a camera pointing at their mailbox and caught us with the ice cream. So I told the officer I was sorry, but he didn't sound mad. He just sounded confused. He kept asking, "But why? Why on earth would you do that? I mean, they didn't make it sound like you vandalized anything or hurt anything. But did you really make an ice cream sundae? What on earth for?" I confessed to the whole thing. The breakfast, the sandwich, the ice cream. The officer wanted to know if I had harmful intentions. And when he realized that I was just acting out situational comedy on a whole new level that he'd never dreamed of, he told me he would try and convince them to not press charges as long as I never put anything in a mailbox ever again. So I got away with it. My friends and I used to do this thing we called cemetery police. Where I live, there was this huge, dark cemetery with plenty of hiding places for kids to drink, do drugs, hook up. Basically, we would all pile into my friend's white car and cruise around the grounds. We had a CD containing one track, a police siren sound. It would constantly be playing, but with the volume down. When we would inevitably come across someone freaking around in the cemetery, we'd crank the volume, turn the high beams on them, and proceed to laugh our asses off as they scurried away from us. This went on for a year or two. I guess we stopped because we started drinking, doing drugs, hooking up. We used to do this in the woods where some 8th graders think they are hidden to smoke pot. Except we did it there when we were their age. We just walk down the trail, flick on a mag light and yell "police freeze." They scatter every time. Then we would sit and smoke pot. Flipped a car in the middle of a farmer's field for no better reason than small town boredom. Jumped off a huge cliff without testing the depth of the water below. I am nearly 36 and still think back at how very easily that could have completely ruined everything. My cousin is a paraplegic from doing something like this. One time some friends and I were trying to get across some train tracks, but there was a train parked on them. For some reason we decided that the train wouldn't be moving anytime soon, and all three of us proceeded to crawl underneath the train to get to the other side. About 5 seconds after the last one of us got out from under the train, it started moving. No one really understood how we could have all collectively been so daft. Hanging out with the wrong crowd. My friends burglarized another friend's home while he was on vacation out of state. I too was out of state on vacation at the same time. The friend who was robbed ended up finding out who did it and the four of them blamed me, said I drove them there and took part in the crime. Luckily, the friend who was robbed not only told me this but said he knew I wasn't that kind of person and it was something I wouldn't have done, but he wanted to warn me about who I was hanging out with at the time. He doesn't know it, but he probably changed my life more than he realizes. I hit a spray paint can with a rake. Mom was mad. Snuck out of the house every Friday and Saturday night starting at 12 years old, and I ran a taxi service shuttling drunk high school kids to and from parties. Lasted 3 years and made a lot of money. I started doing it because a drunk high school kid told me if a cop pulled me over, just tell him I was the designated driver and they would let me go. Wasn't until I was in driver's ed class when I was 15 years old and asked that I found out it wasn't the case. Throwing water balloons at cars at like 2 AM. Seriously, what in butthole? We used to throw raw canned biscuits. They stick pretty good. I thought I lost my virginity, but really I was humping the space between her leg and the bed. I used to throw Molotovs in the dessert. Fireworks bowling ball bucket bonanza. We bought a bowling ball from Goodwill, and after we got doing all the things that teenagers would ever want to do with a bowling ball, egg, bouncing it off a trampoline, throwing it off the roof, rolling it down the street, breaking crap with it, we introduced fire. We would coat the bowling ball in gasoline, then roll the saturated ball through a puddle of gasoline which was on fire. It was a real beat to get the ball to stop being on fire, so we would use a 5-gallon bucket to simply smother it. When we got bored with that, we coated in the inside of the bucket with gasoline, put a bunch of fireworks inside, turned it on its side so it could roll into it, and made it the pin. So the object was to bowl the gasoline-soaked ball down the street, through the fire, catching the ball on fire, into a bucket with fireworks and gasoline. It took a couple of tries, but when it happened it was glorious. Everything basically instantly exploded out of the bucket, then the bucket melted around the bowling ball, and that's when my mom walked outside to see a melting bucket on fire about the shape of a bowling ball with a few remaining fireworks exploding firewire melting plastic everywhere onto the cars on the street. I think his name was Dave. Miss you. Fap in the busiest school bathroom, right where all the kids from kindergarten through 12th grade get picked up. Shudders the embarrassment. Toked up on the 4th of July, nighttime, and I am launching some rockets and stuff. But I'm on a lake and some people on the other side show me up with crap 10x bigger. A third party cheers for their big show. I launch some small rockets and they boo. The audience was on a dock about 100 yards away. I launch a mortar horizontally at them and it explodes right next to their dock, and I hear, what the frick, we got people swimming here. Note to self, don't boo at fireworks, ever. Car hopping. Went out 3 nights in a row. First night got a Glock 26 and a MacBook Air along with some other random things. Second night got a nice laptop, $80, Maui gym glasses and an iPod. Third night got a shiny pair of bracelets and 4 felonies. Fingered my girlfriend in the back of her mom's car while her mom was driving me home. Waste my youth by avoiding social situations. I still do, but I used to too. Drove around with friends stealing street signs we thought looked cool. Stole about 20 in one night. Really lucky we weren't caught. Let my girlfriend convince me to hide in the trunk of the car, and then 3 minutes later I hear the guards of a military base ask her to pull over while they verify it. Scariest 4 minutes of my life. I went through a McDonald's drive-thru, ordered at the speaker, then when I got to the first window I said I forgot my money. Then instead of driving away, I stayed in line until the second window, and when they asked me if I had the person behind me's order, I said yes, took their food, and drove off. Nothing. I had no expenses, a good deal of savings, and so much goddamn time to go backpacking, bike touring, camping, make art, make music, do photography, exercise, but I just sat around doing freaking nothing, complaining about how bored I was. Eating mushrooms off the ground as a dare, never again. It was my friend's 12th birthday party. There was a group of 6 of us girls having a slumber party in my parents' basement. After my parents go to sleep, we do what normal 12-13-year-olds do. Paint our nails, draw hearts over boys' pictures in the yearbook, or sometimes X them out. I had a crush on a boy who lived in my neighborhood and wanted to sneak out that night and see him. We had been talking online. I told him we were all going to meet up after my parents go to sleep. He was down to meet, but didn't want to sneak out. So I told him we would all come visit. I really wanted to get his attention, and so I came up with this plan. Scoop cat crap out of my cat's litter box and put it in a bag and light it on his doorstep. We walked to his house through the backyard, placed the bag on his front porch, lit a match and watched as flames gradually got bigger and bigger. Then we ran, freaking out, back through the woods. A cop car later showed up on my driveway and explained to my parents what had happened. I really had a hard time explaining, not least comprehending what I did and why I did it. Nothing better to get a guy's attention than a flaming bag of cat crap. Got very high and lost my virginity to a guy I had met that same night. He had taken shrooms for the first time that night too. Then we hopped up in his car and go cruising around. To be 17 and 18 again. And if Reddit really wants to know, we are dating now. We have grown up a lot since then though. Nothing. I didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't hook up, didn't do anything risky. I didn't get any life experience as a teenager. That was the stupidest thing I did. When I was in 10th grade, me and my friend would ride our bikes a couple miles in the middle of the night to frick with another friend's yard. We did this multiple times, doing completely retarded things such as covering his mom's car in Bologna, leaving tons of plastic dinosaurs on their porch, and blasting Ride of the Valkyries through a portable radio whilst flying a remote control helicopter from across the street. Surfing during a lightning storm, hopping moving freight trains just to see if we could, climbing large sandstone cliffs with no gear, drove around Compton, we're white, with a few grand worth of crap in the back of the truck to try and score fake IDs after being turned around in the mountains because we didn't have snow tires or 4WD. We were already far north of home and listening to Eazy-E, so we took an adventure, riding in the back of a pickup truck into Mexico to go surfing with the older guys. Frame stands on BMX bikes down long hills, whippets while driving while on mushrooms, surfing large, dangerous waves breaks on mushrooms, bringing drugs into Mexico, going to Tijuana with guys known to get drunk and start fights. Went to a whorehouse in Greece. Don't go to whorehouses in Greece. I scammed some people on an online trading site out of some cash for some graphics cards I did not in fact own. I stole a picture from someone else's sale and used them on another site. Made like $600 before someone caught on. I went as far to go to the FedEx office and ship a box of rocks so I could get a tracking number and give it to them when they started hounding me. Eventually one of them managed to get my father's number and I literally answered the phone and called my dad to answer the line and ran out of the house and didn't come home for a week. My dad, being the awesome person he was, paid the people back for me and made me work it off at his company he owned. Years later I came across the emails I used to scam the guy who caught me and sent him an apology email, and he was glad to hear I didn't turn into a crappy kid and grew up to actually not scam people for money. If you Google my name you'll find a whole post on my scam from start to finish deep in Google. Reading it all over again as I type this and I feel like such a craphead. I photoshopped my friend's face in the sexual predator handouts. I'd do it again, lol. Accidentally swam with a great white shark. My buddies were out boating and fishing off Pawleys Island, SC. It was over 100 degrees that day, so I decided to jump in the water real quick. We were a few miles offshore, so I knew there was a risk there, but I figured if I was in and out in a couple minutes everything would be fine. So, I hop in off the front end of the boat and I'm swimming to the back ladder when my friend starts screaming on the other side of the boat that there's something huge that just swam under the boat. I thought they were fricking with me, so I start casually doing the backstroke. I make it to the ladder fine. Nothing happens. I get out, and they are insisting that something huge was swimming within a few feet of where I was. I laughed it off, but about 10 minutes or so later a buddy of mine lands a massive cobia type of fish on his line. As he's reeling it and this shark comes out of nowhere and takes the bait. Literally, we got a good look at it and it was a 12-foot great white. Got a tramp stamp. Jump out of my 3rd floor window. I still do not know how I got out of that one with no injuries. Smoke snorted sold M. Take advice from other teenagers. Hooked up in the backseat of a 56 Ford while a crazy friend was driving and getting angrier and angrier for not getting any. I can tell you about a very stupid thing one of my classmates did. This happened about 13 years ago during our sophomore year in high school. It was a Friday night, and like most kids, he and bunch of his friends were hanging out and having fun. Stoked for the weekend. They were all piled into one of his friend's truck. He was sitting in the back of the pickup and suddenly had this brilliant idea to mess with the passengers who were sitting in the cab of the truck. So he sits on the edge of the pickup, leans and stretches his arm into the cab in order to reach the passengers. The truck was going 55 miles per hour when the driver hits a pothole. Not on purpose, of course. He just didn't see it. This caused my classmate to fall off and out of the pickup. His head hit the pavement first and he ended up in a coma. 2 days later, his brain continued to swell. Despite the doctor's attempts, I think he was also pretty much brain dead too. So with that and the fact that his parents' health insurance couldn't afford any more medical treatment, they made what was and will forever be their most difficult decision. They pulled the plug. Monday morning came and one of his good friends rode the same bus to school as I did. When he got on, he informed everyone that my classmate died. My classmate was a pretty popular kid and his death affected everyone. I went to a fairly large high school. Classrooms and hallways were quiet for the entire day. A very eerie silence. Huffing Freon probably tops the list. I did a lot of dumb crap. I had a kleptomaniac and pyro phase as well. I also really enjoyed breaking into old buildings. You have been visited by the cute pupper of charisma and flirting. Smooth talking and successful flirts will come to you, but only if you comment, "Hey there, pupper," below this picture. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.